Microsoft reported earnings. Let's talk Xbox. Microsoft dropped their earnings today, and there's no other way to describe it that they hit it out of the park. Microsoft had a huge quarter across the board for many different businesses, but we're going to talk about Xbox. Linked down below are the rest of their earnings, which you should click and go check out because Microsoft really just cleaned up. They reported over $40 billion in revenue, and they put more than $15 billion into the bank account, meaning they have about two Bethesdas, if you will, locked away in their war chest to do whatever they please with. Buy more stuff, buy more companies, or buy Ferraris for everybody who works at Microsoft. But let's just dive into some of the finer numbers. And unfortunately, I'm going to lead off with, hey, they didn't tell us Game Pass subscriber numbers, so that is something we don't know, but we did get a lot of other details. Gaming revenue, and all of these numbers aren't all that surprising, right? They launched a new console, everything should be up. But gaming revenue grew 51% or $1.7 billion more than this time last year. And I believe that puts them at around $5 billion for the quarter in gaming revenue. Xbox content and service revenue was up 40% to 998. We'll just round it up and say they made $1 billion in content and services, and they say that was driven by growth in third-party titles, Game Pass subscriptions, and first-party titles. So kind of everything except, honestly, Xbox Live Gold was named there because you've got first-party games, third-party games, and Game Pass subscribers. Well, obviously, that is going to drive the majority of things. But still, up 40% to nearly $1 billion. Xbox hardware revenue was up 86% year over year. Again, no surprise because last time at this year, what were people buying? Well, they were buying the end of an Xbox One generation, and we all knew that this sales would jump, but an 86 jump is pretty darn healthy. One thing to point out is that Xbox content and services revenue this quarter was bigger than, at least based on my rough math here, than the total Xbox gaming revenue for this time last year, meaning that they made $1 billion during this quarter, and that's pretty much more than the hardware of last year. So that is pretty phenomenal. Xbox hardware almost doubled and now accounts for roughly about a third, somewhere between 30 and 33% of the Xbox total gaming revenue. So again, big jumps there. One thing that is worth pointing out here is that it looks like Microsoft didn't ship as many consoles this generation launch when you compare it to the Xbox One generation. Now, this isn't all that surprising. Microsoft was actually pretty candid that they shipped things out later because they were waiting on some new features from AMD in their chipset, and they didn't get to build as many consoles as they really wanted. And so based on some rough math, it looks like they did sell less consoles during this quarter when compared to the Xbox One launch quarter. I don't interpret that to mean that they had a bad quarter. It's just they couldn't sell as many, because I even went and looked at many of the sites that you would buy an Xbox on, and they're still completely sold out. So Microsoft has no issues selling consoles. They just have issues building consoles. But overall, Microsoft really had a strong quarter. I mean, nearly $5 billion in gaming revenue. This is a growing line for Microsoft. This is a good start for the next generation. And again, they are going to be pushing those Game Pass subscriptions heavily now that they have a growing base of next generation consoles and new gamers, and which is why they are continuing to add content. I mean, almost $1 billion in transactions for Game Pass subscription, first party and third party titles. Now, we don't know the breakdown of that third party thing, because what I was going to get at here is that Microsoft listed three things that drove Xbox services revenue, right? Third party, first party, and Game Pass. Microsoft owns two of those pieces of that category, right? And so that's a big deal. They obviously don't own third party titles. That's why they're called third party. I would love to know a true breakdown between Game Pass and first party title revenue versus third party title revenue, to see like how big of a slice of the pie they have there. Maybe one day Microsoft will share that, but that was not today. So the takeaway here is Xbox had a really strong quarter. We didn't get Xbox hardware sales numbers. I didn't expect that. Microsoft just really transitioned to this software as a service. They only care about subscription. Not that they only care about that, but they primarily report software as a subscription services revenue, which is Game Pass subscriptions. They didn't give us those user numbers, which is a little disappointing. And the fact that we didn't get hardware sales was not unexpected. So I would guess Microsoft at some point in the future will report Game Pass subscriber figures. A lot of us were thinking they were going to be at 20 million, but we don't actually know the real number yet because, again, Microsoft hasn't reported. So As always, folks, I will try to keep you updated as things can kind of mellow out and we get some more tidbits as we dig through the data. But I've dug through the slides and the 10Q and 10Ks and everything else that Microsoft delivers for the quarter. And so keep it subscribed here because the only BS on this channel is me.